Harry McKay, number 10. Pom, this was, we're in a real high with Harry McKay at the moment. This was a player who matured a lot and grew a lot as a footballer and I think as a person as well in 2021. And a lot of the talk about the future leaders, stems from, Walsh and Wiedering. But if you look at the way Harry McKay conducts himself, he's 2021. If you even go back to preseason 2021, he identified the Speed Project as, a group that he wanted to work with to work on little things. And I think that was the catalyst, or that change in mentality was the catalyst for me to now say he's really matured. He's now starting to think for himself. He knows what he needs to do to be better. The body has really filled out from what it was early days when Bolton wasn't playing him to protect him from his sore back. And look, it's exciting because I think it was a breakout year, and I think I'm assuming we can expect to have something similar happen this year in terms of total output.
Oh, there was times last year that he was bordering on taking the piss at times, wasn't there? Let's be honest, it was great to see, and we probably haven't seen anything like that at Carlton since Fev. Someone that we can play absolutely horrifically, but somehow there's a bloke in the forward line kicking goals for fun. And it is an exciting time for us. And I think it's something that we've got to really take in. I think sometimes you've got to take just a second and be like, God, we're lucky here. You look at the Sydney game, which we lost. He was dominant in that. And if you're going to be critical on it, 7 inside marks for 3 goals. If he can just sharpen that avenue up, there was games we didn't deserve to win that we won, but there was games that we should have lost that if he kicked a bit straighter, somehow we would have won. So you'd say if we're going to win a flag, this is the man that's going to do it. We've got the guy that can be an assassin up top. And he kicked all them goals last year, and sometimes them entries were banter. So it's exciting now. We've got Chera, who everyone tells me his biggest asset is class, whatever that is. Well, if that makes goals, I'm all for it. I reckon Harry's in for another big one.
Well, you and I did a video in not long ago. I think it was mid-December, and it was about the trajectory of Harry. I'll link it right now for those of you who haven't watched it. Please watch it because it's actually important for this point. Because you look at the other great forwards of the modern era, the Josh Kennedys, the Jack Revolts, the Tom Hawkins, etc. I think Harry is in a group now with, you might want to put the King twins in there. You've got these next gen group of big boys in the forward line who I think will take that title as the best forwards in the league for, a 4, 5, 6, maybe 7-year stretch, just like Hawkins, Revolt, and Josh Kennedy have done. And I think 2021 was year one of Harry's, what I hope to be a 6, 7-year stretch of, 55, 60 goals minimum. And I think that was an important part of this puzzle. Obviously, we know where Charlie's at. We know that we've missed him for 2 years. He played some games at the end of 2021. And I was a little mindful of bringing up Charlie Curnow in front of you on a Harry McKay video because this might become the Charlie Curnow preview. But I actually think having a second option is the next layer for us to unlock Harry. Because let's be honest, there's 2 things. Number one, we didn't have a second option. And number 2, our entries inside 50 at times were just absolutely horrific. So what does that look like for you with the second option? How does it make Harry better?
Well, I think if you look at the top teams, you look at the Demons, their leading goal kicker for the year, including prelims, Bailey Fritsch with 59. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got 3 or 4 players coming in with your 40s, your 38s, your 35s. It's really spread. Then you look at Carlton, and then you've got what? You've got Harry with his 58 for the year, and then the next best is way down. And there's the issue with Carlton. That is a huge issue, that our goals were all coming from one source, really. You imagine how easy that is to defend as well. When your leading goal kicker is 58, Eddie Betts at 500 years old is 27. It's quite easy to defend, isn't it? Because you're like, okay, they're kicking it to Harry. Yeah. And if Harry doesn't catch it, Betts is going to kick it off the ground. Okay, we know how to stop this. Charlie coming in adds another layer because Charlie in himself, and I'm not going to turn this into a Charlie video, but my words for Charlie would be, don't let Harry take your limelight. Who's Harry? We hadn't heard of this guy 2 years ago. You're the main event. So Charlie in himself will probably say 58 goals. I used to kick 40 with players who didn't even deserve to play AFL. If I had that service and was fit, I can get 70. And that is where Carlton suddenly become a force, because we want Harry and Charlie to be best friends, but like brothers, want to outdo each other. And that is where Harry suddenly has it a little bit easier. You watch that St Kilda game, Harry and Charlie were beautiful together. Once Charlie kicked that goal off a step from 60, you saw St Kilda were like, Jesus, if they don't get it to Harry, he can kick goals as well. What do we do? And you could see it made an issue for St Kilda. That is where I think with these two fit, how are you stopping them is my question to the opposition. Yeah, you might be able to stop one, but can you stop both when they're firing? Probably not. I think Harry will probably have a huge year. I reckon Harry's going to be the next 100 goals in a year player.
I hope so. Can you imagine us running onto the field at the MCG, hopefully, after 100 goals? I think there's another point as well. I think he's won the Coleman medal, and I think generally he gains a level of respect amongst, I'll call it, the administration of the league. And what I mean by that is the umpiring and the league in general. And all of a sudden, you got a guy that can potentially kick 100. He's in the limelight. I hope he's officiated better. And I'm surprised and I'm thankful that he hasn't been more injured than what he has been, because I know I don't want to make this a complaint about the umpiring, because I'm not like that. I don't like to make excuses, but Harry cops some shocking hits across the body from defenders who are coming third man up and they run into him. And I don't know why he hasn't quite got that respect yet. And I'm hoping that now that he has a Coleman medal, around his neck, he gets that respect and they look after him a little bit, because he does cop a battering.
It's a weird Australian culture trait that cheating is frowned upon, but I watch him and I wish he'd simulate every so often. I want to see a flop from him. I want to see a Rewalt flop from him. I'm all for, I say hashtag bring back more flopping. I want to see it. If you're touched, let them know. But he's very honest, and I suppose that's commendable in a way. But I think he's a victim of his honesty, because he kind of just gets on with it. And the uncanny thing about Harry is he takes marks when 4 people are holding his arms, which makes it even worse, really, for the umpire, because he's like, well, he still marks him. It doesn't really affect him. But I agree with you. I hope he's watched. And I do think what you're going to see for Harry, back to how our forward line works, with a fit Jack Martin who can take a grab, a fit Jesus who can take a grab as well, and Charlie, suddenly he's probably not going to have 2 or 3 guys on him, because it would be very foolish to have 2 or 3 guys on him and give the shot out to Charlie, the shot out to Jesus. So I think you probably are going to see more free kicks, because you do see them. It's kind of when 3 defenders come on him, and it's kind of like the umpire's like, did they touch him? Did they touch each other? It's kind of chaotic mess with Harry. So hopefully, bit more pace as well, because he's spent another year at that pace factory place. I think he's going to be in for a big year, and I think he'll be looking to reclaim the Coleman. But I do hope Charlie's watching it and saying, I want that Coleman. That's mine. Yeah. And if we have that, look at the great soccer teams. When you've got great forwards, Andy Cole, Dwight York, who loved each other but had jealousy, makes the team a wonderful place, because they want to kick goals.
For sure. The other part about his game, which, I don't know, I guess I'm issuing a challenge to him, is the tackling. And the reason is I know he's quick enough, and I know what it could do for the team if you see, whenever you're big fella, your leading goal kicker is chasing and hunting. If you look at Port, if you look at Charlie Dixon, like, he might not kick as many goals as what he could, but one thing he does, man, he throws his weight around. His effort indicators are right up there. I would hope that Harry doesn't fall into this mentality of, oh, I'm Harry McKay, I've got the big contract, I'm a Coleman medalist, I don't need to do the 1%ers. I hope that And I back him in to be this type of leader for the club. And I touched on it before. I hope he has this internal challenge of, let's say, I mean, he averaged 1.4 tackles a game. The most he's ever laid in a season is 32 in 2019 from 20 games. I don't see why he can't average 2 tackles a game. Let's just say a little under 2 tackles a game, and we'll round it out to 40 tackles for the season. I think that's reasonable, and I think it'll help lift the team, because if he does it, Charlie's going to do it. If Charlie does it, well, all of a sudden, Jack Martin's got no reason not to do it. Jack Silvani's definitely going to be doing it, and that's going to help with the pressure that we lacked at times in the forward 50.
I would like to see him hurt someone. You see Charlie Dixon,
Yes.
he kind of, he falls on you, doesn't he? And he kind of gets away with it because he's like 9'8", so the umpire's like, gravity's an issue. He does strike me, Harry, though, and it's back to maybe that ruthlessness from Harry, the flopping, why he doesn't do it. He reminds me of that big bloke you take out with you on a night out that everyone thinks will knock you out, but he still sleeps with a teddy bear. He's the nicest guy in the world. The nicest
guy.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? He reminds you it's Mother's Day to buy your mum a card. Like he's got a heart of an angel. I do hope we bring that little arsehole side to him. I would love to see, like you say, that Dixon. You see Dixon do that. He takes out a small defender and lands on top of them and takes about 2 weeks to get off him. Like, I want to see that from Harry because he's an ox, isn't he? I mean,
yeah,
he's a big boy. You won't want to fight him. And I want to see that little nasty edge from him. And I do agree with you. If he adds that layer to it, the guy's unstoppable.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, he's now entering this phase of his career. By the way, we're in year 7 of Harry, which is crazy. But he's entering this phase of his career where the body strength is probably going to start to get to a point where he's no longer being pushed out. And that probably started last year, if not halfway through 2020. But it's now going to get to a point where we're going to play teams who have younger defenders that he will now be ragdolling a little bit, which I'm just so excited for, because I know that once it starts happening, we're going to see it for a good 5-6 year stretch. And it's just going to be a piss take. I mean, you look at Josh Kennedy. He's been so good for so long. Once he hit that point, that sweet spot where he was stronger than most defenders, he was scoring easier goals. And I think Harry will score. He still has a level to go with scoring, easier goals.
I think what's scary is he's only 24 years old.
Oh my God.
Like when you think of Harry, you think he's like 30, the way we talk about him, but he's still a baby.
Yeah.
What's scary is he's still got 4 years minimum development. And if he's smart, that's 6 years of development, because the top players still develop when they're 30. So I think that's an incredibly exciting time that you're probably seeing the worst Harry. Last year, potentially is the worst Harry in his good years.
In his good years, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and you'll probably look back at it in 5 years and go, 60, just under 60 goals, Mickey Mouse. And that is what's exciting. So he's got it all. He's got it all. And I think you look at us where we had his set shots when we did the Harry video, they're so far out because we never hit him when he's in his peak positions. He's going to get a few freebies as well, a few cheap ones. You look at Tom Hawkins, the master of the 6-yarder. He is. He always gets them ones out the back. That's because their forward line works and drags him one-on-one. We need that. If we can get Harry out on one, Charlie's taking the piss on the half-forward line. Jack Martin's getting involved. Jesus is getting involved across there. Suddenly, you're going to see 10 free goals a year just because he's on some little midget. That's what we want. We want him one-on-one, because one-on-one, there's probably no one in the comp who can beat him.
Oh, boy. It's going to be a big year for Harry. I'm excited. I'm excited. Obviously, wishing him good health, full preseason. That's really the key for everybody. But I think he is. I'd say he's probably our second most important player to Wiedering. I think, in terms of if they didn't play, or if they were to get injured for whatever reason, touch wood, you'd feel it the most. So I think he's an important one, and therefore I hope for good health for him. But yeah, what about you at home? Let us know. What do you predict for Harry this year? Why don't you give us a prediction for how many goals he'll kick. Pom, what about you? How many goals will he kick?
65.
I was genuinely going to say 65, so I'll just go with 66.
Like he's taken the cheap option.
Cheap option. Go with the devil's number. It always works.